Matthew Marian. I've been saying his name wrong. He corrected me. We were laughing about this because, when you talk to a friend you've talked to for a while, you don't say their last name when you answer the phone. So Matthew and I have been friends for just under a year. I met him through the Jenkins Institute, so you probably recognize Jeff and Dale Jenkins. They are pillars in not only the church, but also in encouraging young ministers and helping them. One of the things I think is most important is building interrelationships between elders and ministers and younger people, and they're all about communication and trust, and I love everything that they do. And they have a mentorship program, and they connected me with Matthew, and I feel like I got the better end of that deal. But he's become a good friend, and I think we talk more about personal life than we do about ministry, and those two things intersect so much. One of the things I love about Matthew is he is a very insightful man, and everybody who meets him, he's like a personal friend, and I love when people come and meet him and they see him the same way that I do. He's got a doctorate of ministry from Harding School of Theology. Did I get that right? And he's been at Castle Rock, Colorado as the pulpit minister there he's on his 16th year. So he's got a little bit of knowledge. He knows a little bit about what he's talking about. But I'm so grateful that he's here today to speak to us. And so thank you for being here. And I'll turn it over to Matthew.
Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know if I'm going to have PowerPoint or not, but oh, fantastic. Do I have a clicker, or is it they just kind of move it? They can move it. That's fine too. It's good to be here. I appreciate it very much. Appreciate getting to spend time with Jordan. We know each other through the Jenkins Institute, and then it is good to get to spend some time with Michael. I've always enjoyed spending time with ministers. I kind of have a passion for blessing ministers and being part of their lives. Oh, thank you so much.
Aim right back at that.
Okay, just like kind of like right there. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. There we go. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Yeah, I always enjoy it. So I did not grow up in a Christian background. So when I became a Christian, I had this issue. I'd never learned to be a Christian. So as soon as I became a Christian, in a matter of months, I ended up coming down to Texas to go to a preaching training school. And so my spiritual formation was very much more about how to become a minister than it was about how to become a disciple of Jesus Christ. And for a lot of years, I wasn't really sure what the difference was because my character was so formed by ministering to others, but not really developing faith or a discipleship for Jesus. And so I go into ministry, and a lot of times people have ministerial backgrounds or they grew up in the church, and so they kind of get it. I didn't get it. So I made a lot of mistakes and certainly failed a lot. I think I'm probably one of the few ministers that I did so well that in the first week of my first ministry, I got threatened to be fired. Now that takes skill. That takes skill. Not everybody can do that. And I wrote my first bulletin article. You would think that I could make it through the one bulletin article, but I didn't. And I wrote it. And here was the issue. I thought we should evangelize. And I used this term, purpose-driven evangelism. Now, I don't know if you knew that, but that's sinful. You can't put those words together. Purpose-driven evangelism. Just don't make that mistake. Don't do it. And so this elder came in and he had this was the early day of the internet. This was dangerous. And he had all this stuff printed off. and he comes in my office, and he slams down the papers on my desk, and he points at me. He goes, "I'm going to get you fired." And I'm sitting there thinking, what did I do? I went to school for a few years. I wrote a bulletin article. I didn't accomplish anything else. I wasn't a hard worker. I wrote one bulletin article. That's all I did that week. What else did I do? And he was furious. And he looks at me. He goes, "You're not going to bring in this purpose-driven error into this church." And I said, "Purpose-driven error? What are you talking about?" Well, there was a book many years ago in the early 2000s called Purpose-Driven Church by Rick Warren. And it was kind of a community church book. And I used purpose-driven. And I said evangelism. And there was nothing right about that. And so because of that was my first week in ministry. So I had to learn how to do this because I didn't really know how. Now, fortunately, the president of Heritage Christian University had to call the elder because he heard about this and talked him off of the ledge. And I didn't get fired. And then, actually, the elder became a friend. I'll probably see him in 2 months I'll see him. And he's really nice to me now. But first week. One of the things I do, every year I have a preacher's retreat up in Breckenridge. So I bring all ministers all around the nation to come, and it's all free. And so they all stay in a $4 million condo house in Breck, and I was going to say wine and dine, but that's not the best term to put for a bunch of preachers. But we feed them. I take them gold mining. I take them hiking. And they just get to go and hang out, and it's a leadership type of thing. Heritage Christian University, the president, Dr. Kurt Brothers, comes out and does some training with them. But really, we just kind of have a lot of fun. And that's something I do every year for ministers because I have kind of an interest in ministers and just to try to help them in their lives. But anyway, that's enough about that. I feel like I'm not really good at clicking this more than once. So have you ever done an ink blot? Have you ever done an ink blot? Where back in the 60s, this was all the rage. And if you went to like a counselor, a psychologist, they would hold up these ink blots, and then you would have to look at them and say, what is that to you? And the person would just sit there and really make a guess. And somehow they believed that this would give an indication of your psychological conditioning. Now, if I look at those, I don't really know what they mean. I'm not sure how much of a difference it's really making. So then they would write down all the information that you would say about it. And then that would give some insight for the counselor into your personality. Well, I'm not sure if it really meant a lot. But what would happen is you would really see what you were already looking for. So what it meant wasn't what the ink blot was, but it was more about how you viewed the world. In Christianity, I have been thinking that I've been very concerned about our Christian culture. I've been concerned about our churches. And one day I was sitting there, and I said, I think we're starting to lose our voice in the world because we are not practicing Luke chapter 11, verse 33 to 36. And we know these verses. Now, we know them through the Gospel of Matthew. I don't know if we ever quote these verses in the Luke context, but Luke actually tells us something unique about these. So I think you'll be somewhat shocked about something that Luke says, that Jesus obviously said, but we just overlook it because we always go to Matthew. We always go to Matthew. It's always about Matthew. But we go to Christianity, but because we are starting to lose our voice, and I think these verses explain why our voice is being minimized in our culture today. All right, let's look at this. Luke chapter 11, 33 to 36. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. If then your whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it will be wholly bright, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. Now, these are famous Matthean verses, but Luke highlights an extra Proverbs. So this is kind of the proverb type of teaching that Jesus would do on the Sermon on the Mount. But he adds one that we never really mention, this idea, therefore, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. Now, in the context of Luke chapter 11, Luke chapter 10, he's really dealing with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And these individuals are looking at Jesus and they're trying to make a judgment about who Jesus is. But the problem is they can't really see who he truly is because of the darkness in them. They were only seeing what they want to see. And so they are becoming blinded to who Jesus is and his true identity because they have lost the ability to see reality before their eyes. They have become so jaded in their thinking, so blinded in their eyes, they do not have the ability to see truth any longer. Now, Jesus is going to deal with this through these three proverbs of light. First of all, he likens Jesus' ministry to light. He talks about the recipients of light. And then he talks about illuminating one's own understanding by this light. Now, if you look at Luke 11:33, look at this. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, so that those who enter may see the light. You guys have heard this verse 1,000 times. You think about how many times you have heard about, you need to be the light of the world. I've come all the way from Colorado to tell you something that you have heard 1,000 times. Yay for me. And poor you. Do I need to tell you that you're the light? And then if you put it under the lamp, you shouldn't hide it. I can make a lot of points about this. And every single one of you be like, I know. Is this all you got? But then I would say, well, but you should put it on a lampstand and then be the light in the world. And you would say, I know. This is some of the most basic teaching you could ever dream of. We need to be the light. Our problem in our society as Christians is that we don't not know that we need to be the light. Every single one of you knows we need to be loving like Jesus. We need to be joyous like Jesus. We need to stand for truth like Jesus. We need to let our good works shine into the world. Wow. We all know that. So there's nothing I can tell you that you don't know. You know this is what you should do. So why, if we all know this, we all can quote this, we all practice this, so why does the world have such a negative impression of Christianity? Like if it's so simple, why have we failed? Why does the world not sit back and rejoice for the presence of Christians in society? I have never been in darkness and sat back and thought, oh, who turned on the lights? I've never been upset when light enters my life. But in our society, people are wanting to minimize the light of Christianity. So how do we know this? But what's happening is they're not appreciating the light that we're bringing. And when we sit back as Christians and we say, but I'm doing good works, I'm feeding the poor, I'm serving those who need help. Look at all the good works that we're doing to this world. And the world says, no, no, no. In fact, you're not bringing light. You're bringing judgmentalism and intolerance to this world. The world does not see light. So what has happened to our lights? We all know we're supposed to be the light, but the world's not seeing light emanating from us. Maybe Luke explains this. Look at Luke's 11:34. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Now, to these listeners in the first century, we understand that light comes to us. To those in the first century, that's not how they viewed how the eye worked. They saw light, or your eye, more as a flashlight. So we understand this light comes down and I see it. They viewed the eye as more how we would view the flashlight. That the eye projects light onto its source. So the reason they can see is because the light, or their eye, illuminates what is before them. So it's kind of a different approach. So that's why they would sit back and have this whole conversation about the healthiness of the eye. How well do you project the light coming from your eye onto what you're looking at? Just like if I took a flashlight and I shined it on something, that would illuminate that which is before me in the darkness. But if my flashlight doesn't work or it's dimmed, it means I'm not going to be able to see what is before me very well. So I was researching this assumption that I have, that we're losing our voice in society. We're losing our light in this world. So I searched it on Google. If you want to know something, search it on Google. Now, if you want to get something done, just chat GPT it. So I searched it. And I asked Google these two questions. What is good about Christianity? Good question. Don't you think Google would tell me a bunch of good things about Christianity. And then if I'm asking the question, what is good about Christianity? It should be like number one on the page, some article about how amazing Christianity is. Did you know I had to go down 18 items before there was even a positive article about Christianity? I asked what was good about Christianity, and Google gave me 17 responses about the problems of Christianity. So then I asked Google another deep question. What is bad about Christianity? Number one. Do we realize that our faith and our perspective in this world is being filtered through social media, through Facebook? I think we all think that we stand back to this world and don't realize that we are being filtered by society, and we're losing our space and our ability to see reality. We look at these Pharisees and the Sadducees in this scenario and we say, oh, how come they don't get it? How come they can't see what's really happening? It's because our society has so filtered everything through social media that no longer do Christians really perceive the truth. We're just getting force-fed our perspectives over and over and over again. Our eyes have become unhealthy. So that's why he says this. I am terrible at this clicker. Okay, I've lost. Oh, there we go. Look at what he says. Luke 11:35. Therefore, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. I really am concerned. Because when I start getting around Christian people, I'm not getting around people who are always the joyous people, the most loving people. You know what I'm finding I'm getting around? People who are mad about something. You think about our witness in this world. A lot of times, if you talk to Christian people, they're just bemoaning how evil this world is. Oh, the world is becoming so corrupted, and the morality in this world, nobody's good. It's all terrible. You know, kids these days, they're not this and they're not that. You know, too many video games, I'm sure. You listen to us talk about people that don't agree with us. I have been in rooms where I literally cannot believe I'm listening to Christians just hate on other people who may be caught in sin. They are caught in sin. But the way they talk about them, it's just terrible. Like I wouldn't sit back, and if I had a different perspective, sit back and think, oh, these are the loving people. I'd sit back and think, man, these are some judgmental, mean-spirited, nitpicky individuals. We have lost our voice because we have looked to this world, and all we have seen is darkness. We haven't brought the light of Jesus Christ. We have brought judgment. And so the world has tuned us out. And it's our own fault. because the light in you has become darkness. I want you to sit back and think about this week. How many conversations have you had talking about all the good things that has happened this week in this world? Or have you watched the news and you're like, oh, I can't believe, and we're going through election season, I can't believe, I can't believe, blah, blah, blah. Like I think we get around and we just complain to each one another. We just sit around and we talk about the social ills and the corruption in this world and how awful this world is. And people are just like, I don't want to hear it. I think we need to have a radical change because we have allowed darkness, and we see darkness much more than we see light. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But it feels like that. How do you think? Have you ever caught yourself seeing more darkness than you do light? Do you ever sit around with your family and complain about what's happening in this world? Do you ever seem to get all wound up about some group that, you can't believe that they think they're right? I feel like we do that. And I sat back, and as I was reflecting on this, I thought, I think I need to be the person who sees a lot more good in this world. I need to see good. Because if I see good, it means my eye is healthy. I want to be the person that looks out in this society and sees a lot of positive things that are happening. I kind of am excited about that. Like, I go out into this culture. I have plenty of stuff I do in the community with community people who don't have any Christianity. But I don't want to show up every day, be like, oh yeah, this world, this is an awful world, this is terrible, and all I'm doing is griping about everything I'm seeing. I want to go into this world as a beacon of light. And I want to see all the good that is happening. Because I believe, and I know you believe, that God is alive and active. Don't we sing that song? Our God who is alive. That's the Church of Christ theme song. Is it not? 728B. Why is that the only song in the book that has a B? I don't know how it worked in that system. But that's our theme song. And every single time we sing it, do we not stand up? And the song leader says, we got to stand up for this song. You better believe it. I love that song. But does it not start with our God who is alive? If He is alive, which we know God is alive, and He is reigning, and we know that God is at work in this world, we better start looking for how He is working. But if we can't see, or if we are only shining our eyes like a flashlight on the darkness, be careful lest the light in you be darkness. If all you see is darkness, if all you talk about is darkness, the problem is not the darkness in the world. The problem is the darkness that has come into your own heart. And so when Luke tells us, oh, be careful that you don't become darkness. We never look at that through the Matthew text. Matthew. All we do is look at it through, you be the light, you be the light. Sometimes you can become darkness as well. So I want to give everybody a little homework. This Bible class. Homework. So every morning I get up and I do two things. I read my Bible and I journal. Now, I have a confession to make. I only read 2 chapters of my Bible. I know that's very lousy for a preacher, but I don't like reading more than 2 chapters. I know that's awful. I know some of you do a lot better than that, but I only like reading 2 chapters, because if I read too much, all I do is try to get through it. I have this problem of I got to get this done. And anytime I read the Word of God and I have the attitude, I've just got to get this done, is a bad attitude to have. I found 2 chapters keeps me with a good attitude. And then I journal. So here's what I want you to do. You can read your 2 chapters. I know you read a lot more, so I'm not going to give you that as your assignment. But I want you to journal this week. Each day, each morning, get up and write down some good news that you have seen God do. Some good news that you saw God involved in this world. And start looking for it. I had a young man at tennis. He's not a Christian, but he comes to me. He goes, "Coach, can I talk to you about something?" Yes, and I figured he was just going to complain about where he was in the lineup, thinking that I have every guy I coach feels like they should be number 1, but they're not. But they feel that way. So I was waiting for him to advocate for himself that he should move up. So he's walking me along, and I call him Caveman. I give everybody a nickname on my team. They all have nicknames. And I'm like, "Caveman, how far are you making me walk? Can we just talk about this now?" "Okay, fine, coach." And he has this dilemma. He's dating this girl. He's talking to this girl. But the problem is he's not sure if he should date her. This might be because she had premarital sex already. And he wants to know what he should do. This is my world. And he goes, "Because I Coach Matthew, I know you're a preacher, and so I figured I'd ask you about this, what you think." Now, I've also learned not to respond to teenagers in the moment. They always have more. You have more gravitas if you tell them, "Let me think about it," because getting them to listen is hard. Do not jump in quickly. Just chill out. Let them stew on it, and then you kind of think about it. So the next day, I told him, I said, "Well, okay, man, let me think about it. We'll talk about this after practice tomorrow." And after practice, there he was. He couldn't wait. I said, "Well, Caveman," I said, "well, I think you should practice forgiveness, I said, "Practice forgiveness." I said, "See what you think. If you can forgive and move on, go for it. If you don't, break up with her." Life will go on. See what you can do with this. He goes, "Okay." Well, the next day he shows back up at practice. He goes, "I was on the phone with her till 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, if you end up losing because of this, you're going to be running laps." That's what I said to him. I saw good. You know why? Here was a guy trying to figure out morality, and who is he coming to? His coach, who he knows is a Christian minister. Now, why did he do that? as he told me, he goes, Coach, I couldn't ask my parents about this because they'd freak out. They would. But he needed somebody safe. God is working. God is working. We can be in our communities, and we can be the light. But nobody's going to come to us if all of our perspectives on this world are negative. They're not going to open up to us. We don't become safe people when all we highlight is the social evils. There's plenty. That's fine. They're non-Christians. They're not as wound up about this as we are. But if you talk positively and you talk about what God is doing in this world in a powerful way, they're going to want to hear your perspective. They're going to want to see it through your eyes. Do you have share, my friend. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's such a good point. I'm going to move on. But I want you to do that. Write down the good you're seeing. I think you're going to find your life a lot happier, and you're going to be more joyous. Bring back health to your spiritual eye. Oh, I am terrible at this clicker. Let's look at this. Luke chapter 11, 36. If then your whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it will be wholly bright, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. Do you like how Luke uses these famous verses? This is the teaching of Jesus as well. But we have always looked at it through Matthew. But look what he's saying. If then your whole body is full of light, you bring the light to what you look for. You bring the light. Shine your spiritual flashlight on the good in this world and highlight that. The reason I'm worried about Christian culture, I feel like we have taken our flashlight and all we have done is shined it upon the darkness. And then we're shocked. Why is the darkness increasing? Why is the moral corruption gaining? It's because that's what we're talking about. But if we would take our spiritual flashlight and shine it on the good all around us, I think people would start to look for the good. Our church's light in this world isn't just us doing good works. It's us calling attention to good works. It's us calling attention to how God is blessing this world, how God is sending rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. And someday the unrighteous will sit back and think, wow, God has been there this whole time. But they're not seeing it because all we're talking about is the evil in this world. The body is full of light, having no part dark. It will be wholly bright, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. You need the light just as much as the world. So protect your light. Protect your light. I'm just seeing the world becoming more polarized. People want to fight about this, fight about that, fight about this, fight about that. Let's quit fighting. We can be the ones that get along. I'm seeing churches across the country not fighting, loving each other, having a purpose, getting along. I travel all over this country. You know what? There's a lot of great Christian people. There's a lot of amazing churches. Not all of our churches are dying. People in this world are looking for Jesus. People are being saved. You know, the world is full of hungry people for Jesus. One of the teenage girls that I was coaching, her mom called me. This is fascinating. The parents call you sometimes. And she goes to me, and I know her daughter. I've been coaching her for a while. And she goes, I'm worried about my daughter. I feel like she's in the wrong group of kids at school. Her grades are going bad. And I was just wondering if you could talk to her. Well, I knew something about teenagers. If you talk to them directly, they don't do anything. So I lay aside stuff. So one day I was talking to the group of these girls, and I told them about this new book I wrote called Wild Transformation. Wild Transformation. And they go, Coach, you wrote a book? I said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I know you're shocked, but it did happen. And they said, what is your book about? And I said, it's about my spiritual life. It's about me becoming a Christian. They said, oh, really? I said, yeah, I talk about going to this party and getting drunk and then going to the church progressive dinner the next day. It was miserable. It was miserable. When you're hungover, you don't want to go to one of those progressive dinners. You know, first of all, you get eaten too much. I think I said this in the men's meeting. I added, there's 3 things now that I think church members who came up with this idea should be shot. Lock-ins, early men's breakfasts, and now progressive dinners. I'm kidding. But I did. And she goes, oh, I want to read that book. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bring you a copy of it. So I brought her a copy and a couple of the other girls. And she texts me that weekend. She goes, Coach, thank you so much for that book. That's exactly where I am in my life. I could not put it down because I so needed it. Because I showed some vulnerability in the book. She was doing that too. And she's like, I'm going to start trying to have a faith in Jesus Christ. You know who that was? God. God is working. It feels like every year I just get more stories of what is happening in our community. The good things that are happening. The city came to our congregation. They're going to take some of our land. They were supposed to give us money. You know what? They gave us double of what we asked. Who was that? God. The city was being double generous. We didn't even ask for it, but God provided it. God is active and alive. So can we see the light? Because the light is in this world. But we have to see it. And if we're always blinded to it, maybe it's not that there's not the light. Maybe the light in you has become darkness. And so bring back the healthy eye so that you can see the good that God is doing. Thank you so much for your time.